Welcome to Season 6 of the Long-Winded One podcast. This is Spoiler Sessions, LitRPG, the only show where spoilers don't spoil anything. We're digging into fan theories, side characters, and the lore authors left in the drawer.
Sean, I can't imagine that you've left anything in the drawer with as prolific as you are, but I get ahead of myself as I always do. Welcome everyone to episode, this is 6 of season 6. This is Spoiler Sessions Lit RPG. I'm joined tonight by none other than Sean Oswald, who is famous, infamous, super popular, whatever adjective you want to use for Welcome to the Multiverse, the series, Life in Exile, Magic Eaters, Class Shift. At least those are the ones we're going to be talking about tonight. He's written many others. So Sean, welcome here.
Welcome. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sean, we are, I do this at the beginning of each episode. We only have about 30 minutes to talk. And we only have about 30 minutes to talk about questions that your fans have sent to you specifically to talk about on this podcast tonight. You did your homework, and we're going to talk about those things. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. We have a special guest who is in our green room right now. We're going to let him in a little bit. And I'm going to be kind of monitoring the chat in case there are any questions that pop up from the chat. But we are 26 weeks away from Lit RPG Con, and I think I sat in on one of your panels this last July. It was the first time I got to see you face to face, and so I'm very excited to have you here. I'm very excited. Obviously, we're not going to go in depth into those 4 series, but we're talking about those 4 series because they share a multiverse. Is that right?
Some of them do, but okay. Yes.
Okay. So could you tell us a little bit about that multiverse just before we sort of drill into the questions?
Yeah, no problem. So the multiverse kind of came about because I ultimately had these stories that the series were kind of primarily done, but there was more to do with the characters. So I created the idea. I mean, I created the idea of the multiverse. Obviously, that's out there. But for my series, I created the idea of being able to weave in some of these other main characters and important secondary characters from other series. And I needed a platform for that. And Welcome to the Multiverse became that. There are obviously consistencies, but one of the key things is that each series has its own system. And systems rule different parts of the multiverse, but they're aware of each other. They interact. Sometimes they're competing. Sometimes they're allying. I've got the main character of Welcome to the Multiverse is a system mediator, so he sometimes communicates between systems.
This is Silas.
Silas, yes. So a lot of fun with that. And for those who are paying attention, they will see one other overarching theme. Dragon Sorcerer is a series that connects in. There's Remnants of Eternity there. In another series, there's the Veiled Infinity that they don't know exactly what it is beyond, but there's something beyond the gods, beyond everything. And so there's that overarching theme that there's somebody, some clockmaker, I think is the term that you used when we were talking before, that is sort of tying it all together.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And so we're drawn immediately to the first question from your fans. This is a perfect what is it, dovetail? Is that the term?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. The question is, since you have these series that are connected, will you in the future continue to connect these upcoming stories into this multiverse?
Okay, so yes, some may, but there are also definitely going to be independent stories that stand on their own. Not everything meshes well, as in the power scaling doesn't work very well. I don't want to take characters who are strong in their series, but who can bench press 800 pounds. and put them against Silas, who I did the math on his bench press last night, and it's 308 tons that he could bench press now. Obviously the physics of that, but anyway.
It's fun. It's funny to hear you describe something like that. That harkens back to like the old comics, right? Like I used to get these comics where it would rate each superhero. I forget what they were called, but they would rate their strength on bench press, right?
Right. Well, it's just a simple way that a lot of people can understand. So like in Welcome to the Multiverse, 20 in a stat means that you are the pinnacle of human existence. If it's agility, you're Usain Bolt in terms of raw speed, or each event or each stat would apply differently, obviously, intelligence, etc. So
yeah. Yep. Well, before I let our special guest in, Sean, some of the stuff that you've mentioned makes me wonder a little bit about you. And now you've done lots of podcasts in the past, and I want to rehash a bunch of the questions people have already asked you. But just very quickly here, how long have you been writing all of these series? We talked before, like you mentioned, and you have a ton of kids. So I don't actually know how you have time to do all of this writing. So it must span multiple years.
So May 19th, 2019, I asked my wife if she'd mind if I spent $200 on a Chromebook, because I was sitting up at night with my 92-year-old grandfather who had dementia and was living with us. And he would get scared at night, as sometimes it's sundowners. So she said, why are you asking me? I said, because it's not part of our regular budget. So, we talk about that stuff. And so I bought that $200 Chromebook. 2 days later, I had it and I started writing. Labor Day of 2019, I sent my manuscript to Atheon Books. And a few hours later, Steve Bilo from Atheon had was messaging me back. And by the end of the week, I had a contract for Life in Exile. So it started in 2019. It ramped up more in 2021, really. I went full time in October of 2021. So,
and that was the tail end of COVID, right?
Yeah, it was. It was. I always feel bad because when people tell me about how awful 2020 was, I was like, 2020 is the year I became a published author. 2020 is the year that so many dreams came true for me. I feel bad that how much suffering other people had to experience, but it was a net win-win year for me. So
yeah. Well, you brought up a book called Life in Exile, and it seems like the perfect time to bring in our special guest. So I'm going to add Peter Berkrot to the stage. Hello, surprise,
Peter,
surprise.
how are you?
Oh, wow. Lucy, we have company.
and he's wearing an Atheon shirt.
I am. You know what? As a narrator of LitRPG, part of my job is to do a little bit of editing. So I have to say, and we nitpick. We have to, because otherwise we get in trouble, right? So it's Athon. I think it's Athon, not Atheon. I could be,
there you
I
go.
have to do that because it's like habit now. And it's Steve Bollier, who again, I've screwed up a lot of names, so I'm real good at that now. So I just thought I'd point that out.
No worries.
I'm a pain in the ass. I was an English major. I'm not like the rest. I mean, I'm from New England. I'm from Brooklyn. So
Peter, it's really good that you're pointing out those sorts of things, because as an author, and Sean, maybe you feel this way too. Sometimes aren't you a little nervous to broach the subject of pronunciations and words that you're hearing differently in your head that your narrator says? I do a Gaelic series, so
right. You know what? I just give 100% acknowledgement to them as the experts in that. I am not an expert at it. So whether it's Peter or Travis or Daniel or Neil or whoever that has narrated one of my books, I defer to them.
Yeah. Well, yes. So Peter, welcome.
Also, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're much better at lighting. I look like Ali McGraw right before she died in Love Story. I can't see. So
it's just we got a spotlight on you. That's all.
I have some strengths, and the rest is all very.
So Peter, tell us about yourself. So you are the narrator extraordinaire for Life in Exile, and that is how many books now? That's there's
Six have been narrated. Book 7 is written, and it's with the publisher waiting for what happens next.
perfect.
Tell them I want a raise, whoever it is, because they haven't called me, whoever they are.
Well, that's recorded books.
Oh, they call me. I'm just used to whining. It's, you know.
Yeah.
No. What can I say? I'm not going to tell you about myself because you don't have nearly as much time as that. But I can tell you that. What was the question?
Well, tell us, you know, so this is Spoiler Sessions LitRPG. So we're specifically focused on LitRPG. I'm curious how you came to that world.
I came to that world the same way I come to every other imaginary or nonfiction world. Somebody says, you want to do this? And I say, sure. This was new to me. I mean, you know, the one thing about nonfiction, which is fascinating, is that although my background is acting, my strength is acting, directing, getting inside the character, making them three-dimensional. You know, so for me, my background has always been acting, and I was also an avid reader. I was reading in kindergarten. Don't ask me why, but I don't know. And of course, I'm a lot older than I look. I actually wear my avatar, but when I was born, there were no video games. So fiction was all made up, but it wasn't so much a genre as just, you know, Isaac Asimov and the world was, you know, the sky was the limit. I had to be educated in the world of video games, and I think, and LitRPG. I'm not sure, Sean, but I can't remember because I've been narrating since 2006. I've done like 700 books or plus, and a lot of kids' books as well. But I kind of fell in with these two dudes, which is why I know how to pronounce their name. I fell in, you know, I've worked with a whole, here's an interesting thing about 2020, is I had been narrating for everyone. And this was before things started consolidating so that everyone was like two people and, you know, with different desks in different buildings. So I was very fortunate. And also in 2020, I worked at home. I never left the house. I hadn't put on underwear since, I guess, maybe when I went to the dentist, possibly. I have respect for other people occasionally. But a lot of studios closed. So I wound up not only coaching every theater person in Boston and all the film people who needed another way to make a living. And some of them are doing brilliantly now because you have a strong acting background and you can read. And you don't sound like this. You know, there's not much you can do at that except, you know, children's books for children who don't get scared very easily. So anyway, I came to this and I was like, I had no clue, you know, what the stuff was. I knew that I have to say that if this was in fact my first RPG series, my son who is living it with us at home. He's 33, but he's been my full-time engineer since COVID, because I should have closed the doors. We have this ongoing joke years later because I didn't understand the Nelsons were on their way to dinner at the very beginning of Sean's first book. And they're on the way to dinner and Nana Gonzalez is waiting for them. I don't know, it's a birthday, Mother's Day, who can remember, of course. And on the way to the restaurant, the portal opened up and suddenly they were somewhere else. So I was, for the first time, just as confused as they were. Like, you know, now it's like you read these books and everybody says, where am I? How did I get here? Oh, my girlfriend has a pike through her skull. Oh, my building's on fire. Oh, a skeleton. You know, now there's a formula, and I don't mean to minimize the effort, because I started writing a book in the 80s and I haven't finished it. So I have a great love for all writers, whether or not they put in too many commas the first time around or are clearly borrowing from other tropes, because I was not really, as a theater actor, I read a lot, but I was never really, I didn't think of books in terms of genre. As a narrator, all of a sudden I'm doing crime, I'm doing science fiction, and this became a whole nother world. So for me, metaphorically speaking, I was like, what happened? How did I get here? Why is this happening? And now I get to choose to be an elf or oh, it's a different book. It's a tree. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to go watch this guy grow for like 3 books. And then finally,
That sounds awesome.
well, people love it. So here we are, and this is like what is it, 6 years later, and my son, we're in Massachusetts, so the rest of them are downstairs. My wife and son are watching the Patriots and eating my chili. He said, find out if Nana Gonzalez is still in the restaurant, because we're still trying to figure out what the time dilation is. I mean, I have learned a lot about time dilation and endurance, and I mean, my stats have gone up immeasurably. Anyway, so that's a long-winded version of saying I learned a lot, and every book got better. I mean, that's an interesting thing, because narrators fall in love with their authors for two reasons. One, if any of us tried to write a book and didn't, we know how hard it is. And we are grateful that you've given us the opportunity to live in the world. But I also did 5 or 6, whatever, 6 of the books.
6
And
so
it's
far.
so clear how the style got more refined and the characters became more compelling and the story became richer. So that's always an interesting journey when you get involved in a series. And I've also learned a lot about what, for me, because I've probably done, I'm ending your whole show. You're gonna have to leave in a minute. I've probably done, I don't know, 150, 90. I don't know. I run out of, I don't remember, but a lot of LitRPG. I've been working with the boys at Athon for 5 years, since Watcher's Test. And I think having a good sense of humor as an author may be the big difference between popular books and books that sound a lot like other books.
Well, certainly American lit RPG. That's essential, I think. So, Sean, I'm going to again dovetail. There's that word. I haven't used that word ever, and I've used it twice in one podcast. So, this question comes from your fans. Can you talk about how you write for audio, right? Because certainly, as a lit RPG author, people live for those audiobooks. People live to hear Peter read your book, right? Can you talk about that?
Right. Well, okay. First off, when you acknowledge that audio could be half of my market, it depends on it varies from series. Some it's a third, some it's half, whatever. But I have to keep that in mind. And like Peter was saying, my style has evolved. Part of the evolving has been an understanding of audiobooks, because prior to writing a book, I had listened to one audiobook in my life. John Cleese narrates the Screw Tape Letters.
Nice.
So anyway, I didn't have a real context for it. But as we've moved along, I'm so much more mindful now of the accents that characters have, for example, okay? Some of my fans gave me the hardest time over some of the dwarven jibberjash that I made Peter have to speak in one of the books.
I love dwarves.
Apparently, I didn't do their Scottish accent very well. So anyway, but one of the simplest ways that I write to audio now is stat sheets are their own chapters now. And Peter's got to read it, but that doesn't mean that if you, the listener, are engaged in the story, that you have to stop and listen to it. Then you can skip to the next chapter. But you know what? If you want to check something, you can come back to where it is.
That's brilliant. Yeah. I've seen that done before, but not well all the time. But that's great. So as a narrator, or do you write in, like, if you can skip to the next chapter, or do you is that implied? Do people learn that?
I mean, I put usually in each series, I put at the beginning of the first of those chapters, this is optional. This is here. It's here because a lot of you want it. It's in its own chapter because some of you want to be able to skip it. So
yeah. Peter, do you have anything to add to seeing Sean evolve into an audiobook writer, or is there ways that your authors prepare the books for you?
I don't think anyone prepares them for me, and I would be embarrassed if they did. I don't, but I have learned from, because I've done a lot of series, and not all this genre, but others. I've talked to authors who have said, when I listen to you, I hear the inner life of the character more than when I wrote it. And so they start, because the job of an actor is to take, whether it's theater or film or a book, it's basically to inhabit the intention of the author. And sometimes the intentions are unconscious. So it's also to inhabit the intentions of the characters and to create a different medium out of a two-dimensional, two different quantum mechanics here, So there is that. The one thing that I want to respond to, if I have a minute, is when I first started, there was a lot of attention paid to detail. Like one of my largest chores, and this is with all the books, I started doing mostly crime stuff and young adult stuff. And because when I sounded like this when I was 50. Girls love that. And so what I found is that there was a lot of attention to detail. There was always keeping a list of names of all the pronunciations. It became canon. It became this is the Bible. You don't fuck around. It's like you don't change the words. You don't do what you think is right. You either find out or you whatever. And when I started doing LitRPG, fantasy, of course, is different. Fantasy and science fiction, I always honored the pretext that the author had something in mind that they were hearing, or else why write that? There's a lot of words that can go like 3 different ways, like not like many of us. And so I'd say to Rhett C. Bruno, who is the other wonderful half of Athon, has always been the guy who's like, here's your book. And, Steve's always like, here's your money. And I love them. I love them both for those reasons. But I would write to Rhett and I'd give him this long list of fantasy names, and he'd write back and say, the author trusts you. And I'd say, the author never met me. How do they know I'm not going to call everyone Melvin? So, anyway,
but I think
that, and it became a different thing. This is sort of more of it's not to, again, minimize the intentions, but it seems like it's more of a thing like I've created this fantasy world. If another artist of some sort is going to step in and enhance it, build it, make it 3-dimensional, let him or her have at it. So that's an interesting shift.
My daughter would say, let him cook. That's what teenagers say now. We have about 8 minutes left. And this, Peter, this is intentionally, I've told Sean this already. It's intentionally 30 minutes so that we can get people to listen during their commute, right? People don't generally commute, hopefully, more than 30 minutes. I used to, but there are 2 more questions.
Not much time to get to the bathroom some days, so I understand.
Well, I used to commute into Boston, believe it or not. So, all right. So we have 2 more questions that I really want to get to that I think go nicely with what we're talking about. One of the questions from your fans, Sean, was about how deeply you outline. And the question this person asked was like multifaceted, right? It had to do with how you outline, if you have like an end state in mind when you start writing. It talked about how you develop new magic systems. So if any part, I know you've read that question, so any part of that, if you want to touch on that, I'd love to hear.
Well, let me start with, I started being the forever DM in our Dungeons and Dragons group in 1989. And from the very beginning I'm sorry?
3rd edition? Was that, or was that second?
We were playing 1st edition.
Okay.
I still remember when the 1st edition, oh my goodness, I can picture the book on my head. Anyway, but from the very beginning, I wasn't using canned interactions or canned scenarios or modules. I was making up my own world. So I've been doing that since 1989, even if I didn't start writing until 1919. I didn't even, or 1919. Oh my gosh, 2019. I almost gave away my vampiric roots there. But it's, for me, the fun of this is that I come up with some basic concept. You mentioned the series Class Shift. The basic concept, the shift, the change on that is that class, the class of the character, warrior, mage, whatever, is a very cornerstone element of LitRPG. What happened if your class keeps changing? And that was my question. So I aim for some hook that is within the tropes of what I want to read and what I assume then other people want to read, and twist it just a little bit, because there's nothing new under the sun. I have no delusions that I'm suddenly going to present some new philosophical angle that no one has ever considered before. So then I sit down and I start thinking about the characters. And when I'm dreaming about the characters, then I know I'm ready to start writing that story. And these characters, they're their own people because, man, I want to hit them upside the head sometimes for the things that they do. I say the characters are like my players in the D&D game, and I have no more control of them than I had of those players, because I ask myself, okay, Sarah Nelson is this 8-year-old girl in Life in Exile. How would she respond to this situation? She's not going to respond like 40-something-year-old Sean at that time is going to respond. She's going to respond as an 8-year-old girl who's capricious and inquisitive and tender-hearted, but doesn't mind getting in trouble because she wants to experience the world around her. So she's going to do something stupid because that's what kids do. And it's how we all grew up, and each of us are still sitting here, so we at least made it through that stupid. Nowadays I aim every series to say, what if this series was 5 books long, and I plot it out. But I try to world build it enough so that I can expand it beyond that. And I try to build it in early out so that if it's just not resonating with readers, I can end it at a trilogy and be done. Hopefully that kind of explains it. To me, it's all character driven. I go crazy on Facebook when I see who would win, Superman or Hulk, and then they start talking about all these things. I'm like, just give me a stat sheet for each one, and I'll tell you who would win. Okay.
Well, so
it's all characters.
It's character driven, and I'm curious because this happened to me on my book between book 1 and book 2. I'm wondering if you hear Peter's voice when you're writing Sarah's part now, when you're doing dialogue, and if that impacts your writing.
I don't know that it impacts my writing, but when I listen to the audio books, I believe quite literally that it's added a third dimension or fourth dimension or whatever it is. It's taken the medium and it's changed it because it's added a whole nother element. Nobody is reading my book on Kindle Unlimited and saying, I don't like this character's voice, or this character's voice makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. I don't have any of that. But suddenly there's this whole other aspect and it brings the stories to life. Yeah, I appreciate it. But I guess I feel bad for Peter sometimes because he has to do an 8-year-old girl, although she'll be 13 in book 7. But yeah,
Well, so we have 3 minutes left, and there's one other question that I want to ask, and perhaps when I'm giving you time to talk about, so the question for you both now is going to be, what do you have coming out soon, and where can we find you? And perhaps, Sean, when it's your turn, you can take this last question too, and kind of talk a little bit about this. This is the question was from your fans, and it's about if you ever thought about expanding beyond your books and audiobooks. And I'm assuming they mean like a webtoons or something like that, but you can tell us. So we'll start with Peter. Is that okay? What you have coming out soon? Anything you're excited about? Where we can find you?
Yeah, I had to actually grab my iPad real quick because I'm going to try to stick to 30 seconds here. The books that I'm working on right now in terms of on this in this genre, one of the ones I've been enjoying a lot is you'll probably know Actus, The Rise of the Living Forge. I think I'm getting ready to do book 5. I'm working on book 4 of Apocalypse Healer. I'm starting a new one called The Tao of Money, which I thought was going to be like about shopping, but then of course, as I said, I learn something new every day. And it's actually quite wonderful because when somebody can bring a new element to something like this, it makes, again, all the difference. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, I've read like how many of these books, and now there's something kind of cool about it. There's something. So I've got a few of those that are really interesting. And one thing I'd like to push, if it's okay, that's not.
Sure.
There's a new series I started. The first was called The Mailman. The author is Andrew. Oh God, Huggins. I am such. Oh wait, I have it right here. I'm sorry, guys. The Mailman and the Delivery. It's one of the most fascinating protagonists I've ever seen in a thriller. Think of every hero that you've ever had in any of these books, but instead of being on the FBI or an ex-FBI or another, he's a mailman. The mailman and the delivery, and their delivery's coming out in March. The mailman already came out. It's just talk about great writing. Everybody will learn something because it's a brand new take on a very old genre. So that's where I'm at right now, and other stuff. But bless you, Sean. Let us know what's going on. And I can't wait for Sarah. She was my favorite Nelson all the time.
There you go. Okay, so this month, this past Monday, I had book 4 of Magic Eater come out. That is a series that's tied into Welcome to the Multiverse, and it will have its 5th and final book of the main series come out in April. And if the characters exist beyond that, it'll be through Welcome to the Multiverse. First Monday of February, I have book 10 of Welcome to the Multiverse coming out, paperback, ebook, Kindle Unlimited. Book 9's audio comes out 2 weeks after that. Beginning of March, I have a new series, book 1. It's something I wrote with Aaron Holloway, and it's my first attempt to do a dungeon core kind of thing.
Oh, fun.
So that'll be fun, right? And it's got some teenage dragons in it. It's going to be a blast. So anyway, April then is Magic Eater 5. Into that, May is Magic Eater, is Welcome to the Multiverse 11, and then 10 for audio. June is second Dungeon Core book. July is book 1 of a series called Apprentice. It's a new series. It's going to be LitRPG light for me, a little bit less, more progression fantasy, but some LitRPG. And the names of the narrators are about as big in fantasy as you can be, a couple. And I'm not going to say their names here because there's a couple details that still have to be pinned down, but assuming it is, it's going to be fabulous.
Will you talk about that at LitRPG Con this summer?
Absolutely, because LitRPG Con is going to happen right after that book comes out. So,
perfect.
So we're going to have book 12 of Welcome to the Multiverse will come out in August, along with book 11's audio. In September, the 3rd Dungeon Core book, and that will be done. That trilogy will be done. In October, I'm not going to publish anything.
I bet your wife is loving that.
In November, I'm going to publish book 13 of Welcome to the Multiverse, book 12 audio. And in December, I'm going to do book 1 of Basic, which is going to be a new series. It's a father-daughter. The daughter's isekai to be part of the party that fights the Demon King. And her dad hangs on and won't let her go, and he gets pulled in. Of course, they try to separate him because they want gullible teenagers to be their heroes, not 40-something guys with their feet on the ground. And you know what? I lied. In April, I have 2 books coming out.
Of course,
the other book is book 4 of Apocalypse Breaker that I wrote with Aaron Renfro, which is it's a totally different take. Because I've never written a kind of my characters are always really love people. This guy, man, he doesn't like people. He's going to save people, but he doesn't, like people at all. And then book 5 of that will come out in July. So I'll have 2 releases in July.
You know what's funny about all this? Nothing is funny. That's truly impressive, and I bow down to you. But when I announced, I sent everybody a reminder earlier this week that we would be talking this weekend. Pop says yes, and by then he'll come out with 3 more books, and he wasn't kidding. That's incredible, man. I don't know how you find the time.
Hey, you know what? Call of the Wild was one of my favorite books when I was growing up. It's like 32,000 words. Okay, that's like 3 days.
Right. I know.
So it just puts everything in perspective from my childhood. And like you, I grew up I was born when there wasn't video games, but I was very young when Pong came out. And then I remember being like 11 or something when Ataris came, out. So
yeah. Well, we might have to save that last question, Sean, just because
no worries.
I blame you being so prolific for that, cutting that question, but that's not a bad thing. No, not at all. But thank you both for being here. You guys are welcome back anytime. You can crash my podcast anytime. And hopefully, Peter, are we going to see you at LitRPG Con? Are you going to join us there this summer?
I don't get out much, come to Massachusetts, I got responsibilities, but I'm always on Zoom. I'll be glad to show up and read something.
There you go.
Right.
Or color. I'll just color.
Yeah. Well, it would be great to meet you in person. It was fabulous this last year. When I came in, I'm going up the escalator, and coming down the escalator is Travis Baldry. And I say, Travis Baldry. And he says, Sean Oswald. He delivered it far more dramatically than I did.
Oh,
so
not even on purpose.
Nope, not even on purpose. So
is this the first time you two are seeing each other face to face?
Right. Yep. We mostly communicated through the publisher. And again, I said, I trust Peter.
Yeah.
And I said, Sean, who? No. Now everybody knows who you are.
Unless you were a lawyer in Central Illinois, you didn't know who Sean Oswald was. So
thank my lucky stars.
All right, guys. Well, have a great day.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, Jared.
See you.